Our museum has over 200 models, and you're now nose to nose with our largest and most popular, TWA's Boeing 747 widebody. Hi, my name is Joe, and I volunteer as a guide at our museum. I started my career with TWA at Newark Airport in New Jersey in 1957. I held various positions in ground, cargo, and in-flight services, retiring in 1991. One of my favorite jobs was as an in-flight supervisor aboard TWA's first widebodies, the 747 and the Lockheed L-1011. These two airplanes are the subject of this stop on our audio tour, and I'm pleased to start things off by telling you about the great TWA Boeing 747. The model you are looking at represents TWA's first generation of the 747, introduced in 1970. Its unique profile is still recognizable throughout the world. Boeing has manufactured over 1,500 747s and continues to make them today, over 50 years after the first prototype rolled out of their factory. An incredible feat. Taking a look at our 10-foot-long scale model, you can almost sense the excitement that surrounded the introduction of this aircraft at the dawn of the widebody era. The plane's 20-foot wide cabin held more than 400 passengers, and with that room came some unique features. At the front of the plane sat a first-class upper deck lounge. Take a step over to your right side of the model and have a look. First-class passengers could ascend a spiral staircase to sit in swivel seats and on couches, enjoying cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. Unfortunately, the lounge life was not to last. A combination of factors, including a sluggish economy and high fuel costs, influenced TWA and just about every other airline flying the 747 to remove the upper deck lounge, replacing it with revenue-generating seats. As you can also see, the cockpit was forward of the upper deck lounge area. Pilots on the 747 sat over 3 stories above the ground. Step further back and glance at over 40 rows of economy class seats. You can also see the numerous galleys, service areas, and closets that separated each cabin. It truly was like being in a small town at 35,000 feet. Over the years, capacity and seating configurations would change as TWA introduced their Ambassador Class business section and increased the number of seats in the economy section. TWA's last 747 flight took place in 1998. During that 28-year period, TWA flew 35 of these airplanes on both overseas and domestic U.S. routes. Its reliability and durability are legendary. At least 2 of TWA's 747s were retired with over 100,000 flight hours logged by each. Today, many of the routes once flown by 747s are accomplished by more efficient 2-engine aircraft, but you still can catch a glimpse of a 747 here and there, as hundreds are still flying around the world and will be for years to come. In 1970, this airplane was given the title Queen of the Skies. No one would disagree that's still the case today. And here's some interesting information about the model itself. It originally was displayed at TWA's London, England ticket office on Piccadilly Square. Eventually becoming obsolete in appearance, it was sent back to the United States, where TWA lent it to a travel agency in the Chicago area. Eventually, the travel agency wanted to return it. However, they couldn't find anyone interested in taking it back, so it was disposed of. Luckily, it was spotted in a dumpster, with its tail sticking out the top. A TWA ticket agent in Chicago was notified, and it was rescued. In fact, that crack toward its left front and some scratches are likely the result of its encounter with the dumpster. We owe a large debt of gratitude to all who were involved in its rescue and delivery to our museum, including Marie Traynor, our museum's founder. Since taking possession of the model, we have given it a lot of tender love and care. In 2017, it was opened to have its interior spruced up. To the right of the 747 is TWA's second widebody, the Lockheed L-1011, first flown in 1972. To tell you more about it, I'm going to turn things over to my fellow volunteer, Dennis, who is very familiar with the model you'll be looking at.
Thanks, Joe. I am one of several volunteers at the museum who is not a TWA employee. I proudly worked for the Missouri Highway Patrol for 31 years, retiring as the Chief Telecommunications Engineer. I am here because I enjoy being a part of this wonderful museum and contributing to the work we do. With a background in electronics, I often help the museum with some of its technical chores. A couple of years ago, I was asked to renovate a model that was in pretty bad shape. It's the model you're looking at now. Before I tell that story, let's talk a little about the L-1011 and its career with TWA. As Joe mentioned, the Lockheed L-1011 was the second widebody to join TWA's fleet. That occurred in the spring of 1972. Smaller than the 747, the L-1011 held about half as many passengers. The only commercial jet ever to be built by Lockheed, the L-1011 was considered a technological marvel. Among other innovations, it had the first fully automated flight system, allowing the plane to be computer-flown from takeoff, roll, to landing. Quite impressive for 1972 technology. There were also passenger service innovations, such as the galley being situated below the passengers in the lower deck or belly of the airplane. Food was prepared in this lower-level galley and then delivered in carts to the main deck via two small elevators known as lifts. Bend down a bit and take a close look at the lower part of the model just in front of the left wing. Through the transparent plastic panel, you'll see the galley's ovens, storage compartments, and even the lifts towards the rear. If you look straight up to the main deck, just behind the seats, you'll see where the lift doors open, one story above. Back up top, the first class section was unique. Those seats in the center actually could rock and swivel. At mealtime, a tabletop was placed on a pedestal, allowing 4 passengers to turn their seats and dine around the table. You'll also notice there were lounges in the front of both the first class and economy class sections. As was the case with the 747, economic realities resulted in the removal of lounges in the L-1011, replaced with regular passenger seats. And, like most airlines, TWA would install more seats throughout the aircraft to increase revenue. TWA flew the L-1011 from 1972 until 1997, operating it on both domestic and international routes. Unfortunately, Lockheed could not make a profit selling this airplane, and production was halted in 1982. Only 250 L-1011s were manufactured, with TWA flying 36 of them. Despite its limited production, this airplane was very popular among passengers and operators around the world. Now, some information about the model itself. In 2015, our director, Pan Blossom, showed me this model for the first time. It was not in good shape. It was dirty, dented, and scratched. Its wings were bent, and I'm pretty sure that it had been dropped, at least twice. The transparent cutaway plastic panels you see on the model's left side were either cracked or missing, and the inside was a mess with pieces and wires strewn about. One of my hobbies is building and flying radio-controlled airplanes, so when Pam asked me if I could fix up this model, I said sure, why not? I spent a total of 600 hours bringing this great model back to life. On the inside, I repainted each seat to make those vibrant colors really stand out. Paying attention to every detail of the plane was very important to me. That attention even extended to areas you may not think about. Take a peek all the way in the back and you'll see that each lavatory is complete. I had to do some improvising to come up with some of the miniature fixtures, but it's all there. From closets to tables and even to the cockpit, my goal was to bring this model back to its original appearance so everyone could enjoy it again. The exterior of the model presented several challenges, as the wings had to be restructured so they could hang straight and level. The interior electrical system was completely redone, and new, brighter LED lights were installed. Finally, the exterior was refinished and painted to match TWA's famous twin globe paint scheme as it appeared in 1972. I get a great deal of enjoyment watching our visitors look at this model, and I hope you've enjoyed viewing it too. I also hope you've enjoyed getting to better know both the L1011 and the 747, TWA's original wide bodies.